I've always been fascinated with nature and natural psychoactives. At the time of this trip, I was in grade 10, smoked weed every day, and weighed about 120 pounds, and I was also 5'8", pretty average for my school. At this point in my life, I had no experience with hallucinogens, only weed. My high school has always been very well known around my area for cannabis. I live outside Toronto in a small town, and my school has a reputation for having a lot of weed. Ask a stoner you know in Toronto, and the town they probably think of is my town. Anyways, I started hearing things at my school about this plant growing in people's gardens, and if you mixed its dried leaves into joints, you got way higher. Next, I heard people were eating its seeds and actually hallucinating, so of course I had to try this out. I talked with my friend into giving me a location of one plant, and at lunch me and three friends snuck over and filled out bags with the spiky Datura seed pods. Before I went home to try them, I asked one of my friends how much I should take, trusting his drug experience, and he suggested 30 to 50 seeds to start and work my way up. That night I ate them. Bear in mind I was a big pothead and had no clue that you had to wait longer for orally ingested drugs to kick in. I started with 50 seeds at 10 p.m. I chewed them up good and swallowed them. I waited 15 minutes and figured they weren't working. So at 10:15 p.m. I ate another 50 seeds, chewed them and swallowed them. At 10:45 p.m. I felt no effects still, so I ate another 50 seeds. It is now 11 p.m. and I have 150 seeds in me. 1 hour since I ate the first 50 seeds and still no effects yet. So I figured this stuff must be crap. Stupid liars at my school must be trying to get some attention. So I smoke some weed and go to sleep. I figure I wasted my time. Halfway through the night, I wake up and realize my hand is on my face. For some reason, the first thing to come to mind is a scorpion. I don't move. I don't want to get stung. Then I swat it off my face and realize it's my hand. This whole thing doesn't even strike me as unusual, and I go back to sleep. 7:30 a.m. Tuesday morning. I wake up for school, but something is definitely not right here. My room is kind of moving in a way it didn't before, and my coordination is wrong. I stumble over to my door into the laundry room to get dressed, when I think I see my dad standing there watching me. I've never gotten along with my dad really well, because he doesn't like my affinity or psychedelics. He just stands there staring, and I ask him, "What is wrong with you? I'm trying to get dressed here." "Wait, what the hell? Where did he go?" I go downstairs and start eating breakfast, and find out my dad left for work 2 hours earlier. I'm confused. Suddenly it dawns on me. Maybe this Datura stuff isn't bullshit after all. I then went to school and really started my nightmarish trip. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad in the right environment, but high school was definitely not the time or place for this practice to go. I talked to one of my friends who decides he should tell me how long it lasts. "Yeah, dude, this stuff lasts like 3 days at least." He tells me to go have a good ride, good luck, and then leaves for class. Fuck. Now I'm worried. The rest is fragments of memory, but I'll share the ones that I remember. Day 1, things went reasonably well. Nobody seemed too suspicious, other than some of my friends, which tell me that my pupils are massive. I remember hearing the odd voice in my head, paranoia, crazy shit like that, and wicked bad cottonmouth. The day 1 went relatively well, not too many big hallucinations that I remember. Mostly tracer type things, I think. At this point, none of my stoner friends had eaten any seeds. Things are trippy, but not really in a bad way, and not like any drug I've done since then. On day 2, the shit hits the fan. Constant cotton mouth, voices in my head, objects that shouldn't move sometimes seem to be, but not in a cool way anymore. My girlfriend read up on Datura and was worried about me, and I'm trying hard to maintain during classes, which is getting tough. I never noticed how much my science teacher looks like an orangutan, and I almost laugh at her face. Then I remember talking to my history teacher, and my foot melts into the floor for a second. She must have noticed because she asked if I'm feeling okay. And then she looked at my eyes suspiciously. My eyes are like huge black holes at this point. I'm constantly thirsty, dizzy, and have a headache. My friends all want to eat some despite my warnings, but who gives a shit right now? I'm focused on appearing sober and doing a shitty job at it. That night I go home and sit on the couch and stare for a while. Not at the TV. I don't think it even occurred to me. Just into space. I remember feeling like my brain was full of static. Then my mom comes home and asks if I'm okay. And for some reason I comment on how foggy it is outside. She tells me it's no fog. It is sunny. I decide that this is a good time to take a walk down to where I work down the street to ask my boss for some time off for the next week for a camping trip. Here comes the craziest hallucination I've ever had. Since this, I have tripped on mushrooms once, MDMA 3 times, mescaline 5 times, LSA 15 plus times, and saliva dozens of times. as well as a pretty large bunch of other things that I won't get into now. I still think this was one of my weirdest hallucinations to date. I was walking down my street. I walked past a mini mall, looked to the left at my reflection in a dark window, and thought I saw me holding hands with my girlfriend. The weird part was that I was so screwed up at this point I didn't even click that she wasn't there. Then I looked back a second later and now I realized I was holding hands with myself. This clicked in as not right and scared the fucking piss out of me. And I looked to my right and sure enough, I was alone. I am not exaggerating. This was the realest hallucination I've ever experienced. I can't remember if I kept walking or went home. Day 3. Things are getting nightmarish. And I'm really looking forward to the end of this bullshit. The voices coming and going more frequently as well as trails on objects, and I'm starting to get pretty anxious and paranoid. I remember having a lot of trouble communicating with people, and even at one point, seriously considering that Datura had made it possible for me to read people's minds. By now, I was getting pretty delirious. I'm not sure if I was in a hallucination or not, but there was a moment in day 3 where I was seriously convinced that I might die. I was sitting in history writing the test, when suddenly I felt a massive pain in my chest. The pain was real, but my brain may have made it seem worse at the time. The pain spread quickly to my left arm and back, and I was sure I was having a heart attack. I was freaked the fuck out and started sweating. Luckily, I sat in the back of the class and somehow got through this without anyone noticing. I remember starting to get up to try to get help, but the pain was so much I had to stay sitting and squeezed my eyes shut. Then a couple minutes later, it was gone, as quickly as it came. Then, later that same class, we had a surprise fire alarm, where I met my friend outside, who was now also on Datura. He had no clue what was happening, and thought it was time to go home. I tried to tell him that we still had school, but he thought I was lying. There's some more shit, but I don't feel like getting into all of that right now. I would not recommend this. It totally sucked for the most part, and put 3 people in my school in the emergency room in less than a week. One of which was in a coma but recovered. Luckily, I wasn't one of them.